Ceasefire continues in Syria, all part of the Trump Grand Master Plan, with all guns blazing on impeachment. Ed Blakely is a former Washington insider now living in Sydney, Australia. My name is Sean Britton from the radio station 2SER. Find us every week wherever you find podcasts, as well as on Facebook and Twitter at US of Ed. Let's get it over with. Impeachment. Top US envoy to the Ukraine, Bill Taylor, has told impeachment investigators Trump absolutely tied military aid to his push to have Ukraine try digging up dirt on son of his chief opponent, Joe Biden, and furthermore wanted the Ukrainian President Zelensky to declare publicly that he was embarking on an investigation into Hunter Biden to give them, I guess, a soundbite for the nightly news. Damning stuff, Ed.
Well, yes, it is. Of course, now these goalposts keep moving. The Republicans are saying, we haven't heard any complaints of that kind from the Ukrainians. Maybe these guys are making this all up. It's all coming from inside. That will not work in any court of law, where if you're trying to stick somebody up or embezzle them, they don't have to say, I was complicit in the embezzlement. Clearly, the United States is a strong arm here. Why are the Ukrainians going to come up and say, oh, gee, they were pushing us around? That means if Trump stays, they'll never get any aid again. So it's a silly argument, but they're doing everything. This morning, they broke into a hearing room trying to stop the hearing where another person from the Department of Defense was going to testify that the aid was held up on the orders of the Office of Management and Budget. So it just gets worse. And everyone, Trump and everyone, is acting out now. They're just going silly buggers.
Well, Trump, with all his usual racial and historical sensitivity, described the impeachment proceedings as a lynching, which I think tells us a lot about where his head is at. And as you mentioned there, House Republicans storming the inquiry with a sit-in protest, I should say. This really doesn't speak well for the rule of law, at least on the Republican side of things.
When you're scared, you'll do anything. And they're playing to the base here. They know they've lost most of the real Republicans, most of the suburbs, and now they're trying to hold on to those votes in the Senate, because if that goes bad, it all goes down. Another thing that I've been thinking about is if I were in the Senate, now's the time I go to Mr. Trump and say, I have 17 of the 20 votes in my hand. What will you do for me? A Ukrainian moment, you might call it.
And just on this as well, Trump's desire to host the next G7 summit at the Trump National Doral in Miami, that was met with criticism. He is again using the presidency to enrich himself. Now, he's since backed down on that, although not without mentioning, incidentally, that the resort is big, grand, on hundreds of acres next to Miami International Airport, has tremendous ballrooms and meeting rooms, quoting directly from his Twitter there. He's since taken aim at this phony emoluments clause in the Constitution. It almost seems like he's daring Dems and those Republicans that might be on the fence to try picking him off, to try and impeach him at this point.
Yes, he is. And he doesn't think he has anything to lose. And I guess I would go along with that. He's even criticizing Lindsey Graham. Clearly, he's gone after Romney, basically saying, I'm going to kill you all unless you join me. In the House, I think people can act crazy as they want because they can't win. In the Senate, they have to be very careful here. There are 22 Republican senators up for election. And it wouldn't take very many of those to lose, let's say 12 or so, and the Democrats would have control of the Senate. So out of 22, it's not hard to pick up 12 or 13 seats. So the Republicans in the House may kill chances for the Republicans in the Senate and get both houses to the Democrats. What would Trump do then? He would need to move to Doral or someplace else.
Ceasefire in Syria. White House says the ceasefire that was agreed to earlier this week is now permanent. And as, I guess, a reward, Trump is lifting economic sanctions on Turkey. All part of the plan, to hear Trump tell it. What do you make of it, Ed?
Well, first of all, there is no really ceasefire. This morning I saw on television fighting going on. The Kurds are being pushed back farther. And the only thing the Turks are doing is regrouping until they can push in all the way. There's no ceasefire. This is another bunch of crap that they're trying to peddle to soften the blow. But we've pushed the Kurds into a position that they have to fight for themselves. And as I understand it, our U.S. military is providing Kurds with ammunition and air support in terms of reconnaissance so they can defend themselves in contradiction to Trump's orders.
And despite pulling US troops out of the region, some even going through Iraq where they're most distinctly not welcome, Trump has now said that some will remain behind to guard oil fields in the region. Trump wants to make a deal to get some profit rolling from the oil. No surprises there. But this erratic on-the-fly policymaking, again, leaving little quarter.
It's stupid. And I suppose that's the only thing I can say. It makes no sense at all. So if you were in Korea, would you be thinking that Trump's going to come to my aid? Does he have a golf course there or something? This is just silliness. And he's played to the Turks. The Turks need a respite, so he calls it a ceasefire. These oil fields are for the profit of the Russians and the Syrians, not for the United States or anyone else. So he is trying to do anything he can to feather his own nest at the expense of the world at this point.
Just on the road to 2020, and it could be a very rocky road, we haven't talked much about many of the takeaways from the Democratic debates yet.
Well, the Democratic debates have been pitiful. It seems at this point the Democrats don't want to shoot down one another, but at the same time, just spending your time on Trump means you're not doing anything with policies. And the policies that have been advanced by people like Warren won't work. Even Bernie says that. So what is the Democratic plan and program? I think someone in the Democratic Party has to say, we got to whittle down this race with Biden in it and a couple of others and start talking about policy very, very soon.
And reports Russian trolls are still going to be a factor in 2020. Facebook's released new info that suggests Kremlin-backed trolls are going to be up to the same tricks in 2020 as 2016. Republicans not only unconcerned, they've in fact blocked 2 Senate bills to provide funding for election security and to create more transparency around online advertisements.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, they're doing what they should do. They're protecting themselves, and they don't care about the democracy at this point.
And a few things international. Up north, the Canadians have returned Justin Trudeau to power, but without a majority. Never ideal for any leader. Ed, any thoughts?
Well, Justin Trudeau was acting a little king-like himself. He could do no wrong. And with Canadians, that doesn't go down well. So I think they just gave him a good scare, and he'll have to get his act together. He's still supporting some unpopular policies like that pipeline to the United States and a couple of other things that the people in Quebec don't like. So he's much chastened. He'll have to pull back. He won't be as big a figure on the world stage. If he's smart, he'll just do his homework, keep his head down, and start looking after Canada instead of being the prince of the world.
Israel, a similar situation with Benjamin Netanyahu unable to form government before deadline, leaving the country obviously deeply divided and essentially unled. Where to next?
Well, the opposing party has a chance to get this right if they bring in the Arabs, Israeli Arabs, and get them on side, then they'll be very few votes short of a majority. And I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to make a deal with the Arabs in their Congress to say, you come with us, which means we're going to stop doing new settlements and bombing your towns and stop treating you like you're a third-class citizen. And that's the only way out of it.
And Brexit. Boris Johnson has made getting out of the EU by October 31st do or die, to which his opponents have replied, well, die, I guess. Parliament asking Brussels for an extension while Boris is begging for it not to happen. What's going on?
Well, the extension is going to be granted. We just heard last night there'll be an extension to the end of the year, but to work on the deal that's on the table. So Boris, in a sense, knew he would lose that, but as long as he gets it over the line by the end of the year, he doesn't really care. In fact, this is not a very good deal for Great Britain. This is a deal with the devil. You don't get much from it. The British will be much penalized by the Union. They're going to have to pay that exit fee and the like. There is nothing in this. This is like getting into a fight with Muhammad Ali and say, I went all 12 rounds. Huh? By your face, I can't tell whether you run over by a truck or what.
Yeah.
But they are losers. They just didn't get knocked out.
US Event is produced in the studios of 2SCR in Sydney. Right now is 2SCR Supporter Drive. If you'd like to support independent media, real radio, head along to 2SCR.com/.